Hi guys, welcome to Little Wicket Railway. I'm Rob and in this video we're going to see if it's possible to fix this broken Hornby Tornado. If you saw my last video covering my visit to the flea market, then you might recognise this as the model I bought for £45 as a bit of a repair challenge. Before we start, if you're finding these videos useful, then please consider subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you hit that bell notification, then YouTube will let you know when videos come out in future. Right, let's get into it. Okay, so this is the Tornado I picked up from the flea market and it doesn't work. So let's see whether we can get it working. Apparently it says on the sticker that the motor runs but the wheels don't turn, and one of the smoke deflectors has come off, but let's see if we can actually get it running first of all. So this is R3060 and we don't need the tender, that's got nothing to do with it. It's got no electrical connections in there, so we can put that to one side. And let's get the model out. So the motor is in here. Okay, so that shouldn't be happening. The wheels shouldn't be able to turn. It should be engaging with the gears on the motor, and the motor shouldn't allow it to do that. So we know we've got a problem in there somewhere. So let's start by taking it apart. Details on how to take the shell off are usually on the instruction sheet, but they're missing from my model. That's not a problem. If we go to the Hornby website, click on support and advice and go to product support. Search for the locomotive, so I'll put in Tornado, hit search, and then at the top here we've got the locomotive maintenance sheet. Download that. And then here at the bottom we have instructions on body removal. So it looks like we've just got the one screw at the front here, so let's start by getting that out. And that's coming out very easily, which might mean someone's already had a go at repairing this. And okay, so I've got my cradle here, so let's use it. Just pop that in there. And in theory this just lifts away. There we go. And now we just need to slide the whole thing forward, and yeah, we're out. And let's lift it up. And a nice surprise, we have a decoder already fitted in there. We don't know whether it works yet, but assuming it does work, then that's worth about £10 to £15. So that's a nice little surprise. Right, I am going to take the decoder out and we'll start by removing the motor. To remove the motor and the mount, we've got these two little screws either side at the back here. And then the motor mount should just unhook. If we give it a wiggle, there we go. And we can see here we've got these gears, and when they turn, the wheels should be moving too, and the fact that they're not is a concern. So let's take those out and have a look at the gear that they're connected to, which is on the wheels. So let's just lift these out. This gear should be fixed to the wheel axle. When it turns, the wheels should turn, but they obviously aren't, so it's no longer connected to the axle. To find out what's happened, we're going to have to remove the wheels from the body. On the underside of the locomotive, there are 3 screws which keep this retaining plate in place. So let's get those undone. And that should just lift away. There we go. And we're going to have to lift up this pickup plate, so be really careful here not to damage the pickup wipers or the wiring. And this is the gear we're interested in. And it's moving with the wheels when we rotate them, but it should be gripping the axle really tightly. And if I just hold the wheels in place with my finger and try to turn the gear with this screwdriver, you can see that it's slipping really easily. There's very little grip there and it's very loose. To find out what's happened, we're going to have to take this wheel set out, which is a bit of a fiddly job because it involves disconnecting the connecting rods on either side. These are held in with small screws, and I've got this little Hornby conrod nut spanner which fits the screw heads and allows you to get a good grip. It is possible to do this with a small pair of pliers if you're really careful, but the tool is only a few pounds and it makes life quite a bit easier. That's the first screw out, and be careful here because there's a small spacer on each side which is likely to fall off when the screws come out, and you don't want to lose those. It's a good idea to take a few photos of the connecting rods and wheel arrangement before you disassemble them, just so you know how they should look once they've been put back together. That's the second screw out, so let's just put that over here. And the wheels should now just lift away. There we go. And there goes one of those spaces I was talking about. But let's take a look at this gear then and see if we can figure out what's happened. Right, so here's the gear, and that's not gripping at all. And I think I have an idea why. If you look really closely here, you can see that there's a crack running all the way through the gear. This means it needs to be replaced, so let's start by getting this old cracked gear off. So first we need to remove the centre set of wheels from the others. So if you gently pull the connecting rods away from the wheels, they should unhook and be released. Next we need to separate the wheel from the axle using a twisting and pulling motion at the same time. And be careful when you're doing this that the bearing that's on that axle doesn't come off whilst you're doing it. And it requires a bit of strength, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it whilst reaching around the camera, so there we go. There's that bearing I was talking about, and the gear has just come straight off that axle, and if you look closely it's actually got 2 cracks in it, so there was no way this was salvageable. It needs to be replaced. To track down a replacement part, we once again need to visit the Hornby support page for Tornado and find the service sheet. Download that, and on here we can see that the gear set is item number 7, which has Hornby reference X6346. So now we could go to a spares website such as Peter's Spares or eBay and search for that part reference. But I just so happen to have that very gear in my spares box. So let's slide that onto the axle until it's over the part of the axle which has the grippy ridges. Then we need to replace the bearing, making sure it's the correct way round. Then we can push the wheel back onto the axle. The wheels need to be aligned so that they're 90 degrees out of phase, so one wheel is rotated a quarter of a turn more than the other one, otherwise they won't fit back into the wheel set. Hook the centre set of wheels back into the set, and then we're ready to drop all the wheels back into the body. Make sure that all the bearings fit neatly into their recesses. Then we need to refit the pickup plate, and it can be useful to use a pair of tweezers just to manipulate the wiper blades so that they're sitting on the correct position on the wheels. Then we can fit the retaining plate with the 3 screws. Now we need to reconnect the connecting rods, and now is a good time to refer to those photos you took earlier to make sure you get everything in the right place, and don't forget to put those spacers back in. And once you're happy with the alignment of everything, tighten those screws up firmly so there's no chance of them coming out. This is quite a fiddly job, so take your time with it and make sure you get it right. The way these rods are connected can affect how well the locomotive runs. Give the wheels a quick spin to make sure everything is moving as it should. You can always make minor adjustments later if you spot something not quite right. Now I'm going to drop these 2 gears back in and make sure that they're the right way around and engaging with the new gear I've just installed on the axle. Before we screw the motor back into place, let's check that it actually works. And I've dropped the decoder back in for this. And the motor looks to be running well, which is good, and it means that my pickups are in contact with the wheels and the wiring is all okay. Before we put the motor back into position, now is a good time to apply some grease to the gears. When seating the motor back into place, make sure all the wires are running through the small channels cut out for them and aren't being trapped under the motor mount. Once you're happy, screw everything down. finally, before we try it on the rolling road, I'm just going to drop some oil onto the moving parts. Right, let's give this thing a spin and see whether we've got it working. That all looks pretty good to me, so whilst it's having a bit of a run in, I'll clean the wheels with cotton buds dipped in isopropyl alcohol. I'm fairly happy with how that's running now, so I'm going to turn my attention to the bodywork. It's a bit grubby and it's got a few marks on it, so my first job is to go over the bodywork with a cotton bud dipped in water. Most of the marks have come off and I'm fairly happy with how that's looking now, so I'm just going to go over it again with a dry cotton bud to clean up any excess water. Now we can look at refitting the smoke deflector. This has a little plastic tab that goes into a slot. Then I'm just going to apply a small amount of super glue at the point where the smoke deflector makes contact with the smoke box. And hopefully that should hold it in place. And there we have it, from non-running Loco to half-decent model. All it took was a new gear, which would only have cost a few pounds if I hadn't already got one. I'm pretty pleased with that. So it looks like I got lucky and my flea market bargain paid off. Okay, so it's not a perfect model, but for £45 I think it's definitely worth it, especially considering it came with that decoder, which was a big bonus. This is the second time I've come across cracked gears in a Hornby locomotive, and I'm starting to think it might be a common problem. Let me know in the comments below if this is something you've experienced before too. If you found this video useful, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and if you hit that little bell icon, then YouTube will let you know when videos come out in future. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you again soon.